MFP community? Coach Marco here, Coach Joe here. We are on episode 7 of the Just Show Up podcast. Obviously, if you noticed, we're shifting our scenes quite frequently here, and the idea is really, we're just exploring. Eventually, you will see us at the gym with a nice natural background that fits what you're used to more often, but we're working our way around. So just kind of stay patient with us as we kind of figure out our spaces and our places and the right energy to get our podcast organized. So as you continue to listen, obviously the main thing is that communication rocks the nation. We're giving you all the good information that you need to know about the gym, but also talking about topics that are going to continue to serve you during your CrossFit journey or just your overall path of self-discovery for your overall well-being. So let's get grounded. Let's get our breaths. Sit up tall. Close your eyes, soften your shoulders. Just let everything begin to ease and soften. Just let yourself relax. And just be aware of where you're holding tension in your body. Maybe it's your neck, maybe it's your hands, maybe it's your hips, your spine. So how do you stay rigid and upright, but also feel relaxed and fluid? Let's take 3 breaths. Deep inhale through the nose. Hold. Exhale. Breath in. Exhale. Last breath in. Big hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, and let it out. Always feels so good. Let's get in those 3 breaths in, get yourself organized, get yourself grounded. Let's get into our quote of the day. Coach Joe.
Yeah, so I have a quote from Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss is an author. He's written
love Tim
a
Ferriss.
bunch of books. He's awesome. I recommend. He's always on he probably has a podcast. Check out his books, check out his work. But anyway, I'm a big Tim Ferriss fan, and he says that for all the most important things, the timing always sucks. Waiting for a good time to quit your job, the stars will never align, and the traffic lights of life will never be all green at the same time. The universe doesn't conspire against you, but it doesn't go out of its way to line up the pins either. Conditions are never perfect. Someday is a disease that will take your dreams to the grave with you. Pro and con lists are just as bad. If it's important to you and you want to do it, eventually, just do it in the correct course and correct the course along the way. So I just, I love that quote. Just whether it's something in your career or your personal life or just a goal you have in mind, like just this idea of like starting tomorrow or like the timing not being right, like the timing is really never right for anything. Like the universe doesn't work that way. Like it's never going to be the perfect time to start something or try something. Like you really only have the present, and just taking advantage of that is so important.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting you brought that quote up, because I was during my doom scrolling the other day. If you don't know the Grammy nominee artist Mike Posner, name of Mike Posner's song, you know one? Please don't go.
Yeah.
If you got that tomorrow, will you still be here? Anyway, Mike Posner. And so I followed his stuff, and he basically talks about his journey of going through a lot of just adversity and challenge, whether if it was his own personal struggles with alcohol or just, abuse in so many different ways, and then losing all these family members. And he was talking about in this post about, when is the right time to start, working on yourself or figuring it out. And he really was saying, like, there is no right time. You just got to start. You got to try.
Yes.
You just got to put yourself out there. And I thought that was a really enlightening post because it was very heartfelt with a lot of things I've been actually communicating to my local community with my shaman's work.
Yeah, you have right now, and that's it. Just taking advantage of the present.
Yeah. One thing I'm going to communicate for an update just for you guys for our upcoming schedule. I have my breath workout class, also known as my Infinity class, this upcoming Sunday. And part of the messaging for my community to get people interested is that I do these what I call shaman short stories, and this kind of relates also to what your quote was. But one of the things I talk about in the story is how we create this relationship of the universe doing things for you versus to you.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically when it applies to the most difficult things in our lives that happen, the adversity, the pain, the suffering, the grief, the sadness. If you lose a loved one, if you have struggles in your work, if you have struggles with your passion and your purpose, it's like, how do we navigate that in a way to understand that this is all part of our path? This is all part of actually what our soul wants for us. It wants to experience, and we've talked about this in the past few podcasts too, just this idea of how adversity is a part of the human experience, and it is part of how we actually figure out when to start.
Yeah.
Because actually, maybe that's part of it. Maybe I've learned this through a lot of my personal, adversity, especially with cancer. Was like I needed to have this significant change that was just kind of like smack me in the face almost, to be like, hey, like, wake up. Now it's time to really figure out what you're designed to do in this lifetime. And, how do you shape reframe your thoughts to understanding that these are positive things for us. And it's sometimes unfathomable to think about because, especially if you lose someone very close to you, like, what is that actually teaching us?
Yeah.
And that's not an easy conversation. I don't have the answers to figure that out for you, but just to maybe allow you to think a little bit differently about what those things mean for you.
Yeah. And just like knowing that, like, you don't have to wait to be in any certain headspace or a different space to like make that change then, and like the more you wait, the more challenging any sort of like action or change is going to be. So I always try to keep that in mind, like when I don't feel like doing something, or that I know is like, like the the cold plunge is a good example. Like I should plunge today, not tomorrow. Like, do things today. So maybe if you're today's Monday, so maybe the afternoon at the gym, you'll see the pods out.
Yeah. Hey, the idea of just showing up, right? It's like, it applies in so many different ways, but sometimes we do need accountability. Sometimes we do need a toolbox that allows us to find that motivation to start something new. And I think this could be an interesting segue of talking about today some of our personal CrossFit stories and what allowed Joe and I to finally take that step forward into a CrossFit affiliate, and everybody has a different and unique path. I'm not saying that, like previously, part of our path is adversity and challenge. I think that there is a lot that we can learn from experiencing that. Not saying that if you haven't experienced significant adversity and challenge to allow you to make change in your life is mandatory. But it might look just differently for everybody. And for me, to start my CrossFit journey, that actually was a big part of me even finding the opportunity to look for something to finally just be like, you know what, I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
I'm going to, listen to what's being presented in my life and, find something new. So, Yeah, my journey basically started with, everybody knows most of my story with obviously being sick from going into my senior year for football and having cancer, and basically just changing my whole life to figuring out what I wanted to do when I went to college. And um, actually, before I found my first CrossFit gym, I was kind of just messing around during the summer when I was home, and just finding a facility to work out at to start getting back into my body a little bit as I was recovering from treatments. And I just noticed at the gym there was like a CrossFit like workout. Like I kind of was
Mm-hmm.
familiar with CrossFit a little bit because I heard about my physical education teachers talk about it when I was in high school, but I really didn't really understand the full premise of it. But I knew when I was looking at people working out, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that's CrossFit. I kind of intuitively knew from the pieces that I put together. And so I ended up actually taking like a class there. And one of the first workouts I did, which you all experienced the past few weeks ago, was the Chief.
Oh,
And this
nice.
was in 2012. And this was before my first CrossFit home that I went to, but it allowed me to become intrigued towards this idea of this might be something that's calling to me to really, find some purpose in my life where I kind of was lost for a little
Mm-hmm.
while. So that's the first component of my story, but I'll let you take the
Mine,
take the mic here.
mine's. I mean, obviously, I didn't have cancer, but like I was in a similar place of just like being a little bit lost. So I had just finished I was finishing up my freshman year of college, and like my freshman year of college, I was supposed to like play college baseball, and I was playing in the fall, but I got cut because I had shoulder surgery. I got my labrum. I had a torn labrum, so I had shoulder surgery, but I just like never really, in terms of throwing, like I never really rehabbed the way that I thought I would be able to. Like I just didn't get back to 100%. So anyway, I was just like a little bit lost without like playing baseball, and like I was like really skinny, like must have been 150 pounds. And I got done with my first year of school and I came back home to Northeast PA, and I just like wanted to like kind of get myself back together. Like I was just like a little bit of a lost soul. I missed baseball. Like physically, I was just very weak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I knew that there was a guy. He had a personal training business at home where I lived in like the Hazleton area, and I like reached out to him like, hey, like I'm looking to like build. I had shoulder surgery. I'm a former baseball player. Like I'm just like looking to get fit. And he was like, cool, sounds good. Come in for some sessions. But like as I started working with him, he was in the process of turning his personal training business into a CrossFit affiliate. So like he basically like he was like, this is what I'm doing now. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, cool. Like I was just down
Yeah,
for
that's
it.
cool.
Um, and so he opened a CrossFit affiliate, and I honestly had no idea what like I literally was like I didn't even know what CrossFit was. It was like
Mm-hmm.
2014, like, and like I started doing like dipping my toes in the water because he affiliated like a month like that summer as I was home.
Mm-hmm.
So like I was like, I guess I'm doing this now. And that's like kind of like my origin. It was like an accident, right? Like I was just
Mm-hmm.
looking for something, and I was like, and it was just like the universe, I guess, like brought me down this path of this guy who was a personal trainer
Mm-hmm.
deciding to affiliate, and he opens his affiliate. I'm like, I'm doing this now.
It's amazing how the stars align.
Yeah.
I think the big takeaway from both of those like little initiation stories is, you know, and I think this applies to a lot of members, that inquiry, and many of you listening that are currently members, is like, you feel stuck.
Mhm.
You feel like there like, if it, for some of you, if it's maybe like I feel like my routine is just getting boring, or I feel like, I'm having this, health predicament that I personally need to work on, or if there's something in your life that's like, really feeling, like you have this boredom or something, per se. But yeah, there's this feeling of feeling stuck, which is like essentially the same thing. It's a feeling of adversity,
Yeah.
where you then have this opportunity to make a change. And I'm a firm believer that every single person that comes into the gym and inquires and becomes members, like it's all happening for a very particular reason. And for us, obviously, look at where we're at today and how that evolved. Like it was really kind of just, I call these universal acts that really, you know, move in our favor when we start to open ourselves up to a possibility to, make change in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like the first step for both of us was like, I need to do something. Like I can't stay stuck in this way. Like I need to find some new way to grow. And like, and then like you make that first step and then it evolves from there. It's like, okay, I'm at this personal trainer. He's opening a new business next door. That's a big CrossFit affiliate. Like, let's try that. Like, it's just, you take that step and you start trying new things. And like when you're open, like just so much cool stuff happens. So for you then, how did you get yourself into like a true affiliate?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I have just this story of really trying to find, a community, right? I think that's in essence what I was really looking for was people, because I was just in this lull period of I was still going through like treatment and still recovering once a month, but my life was coming back to normal. And I started to find communities, particularly with at Westchester University, with the mindfulness contemplative studies degree that I was in and I was taking with, and I was doing um, my mindfulness classes. I was getting my 200-hour yoga teacher training. I was really just completely immersed with this yogic philosophy and spirituality part of myself that was very much a calling to me. But I was still kind of coming back to that feeling that summer when I tried that like CrossFit class and work, and I was like, that's really where that's a part of myself that I lost from cancer. And I think there was a part of me that really wanted to grow into that feeling of like really getting back to my physical body that really felt natural for me. And so I just kind of was looking up online, like, CrossFit gyms near me when I was in my dorm room. And the first CrossFit gym that popped up was CrossFit Westchester. And I was just kind of noticing, the community, the camaraderie, the whole, completely different shift in perspective of fitness, because I was also in school for exercise science, and what I was learning really didn't feel like it was making a bigger change from a macro perspective of obviously connection like I'm talking about. Um, so the story comes down to me finding this gym, and basically I didn't have transportation, so I rode a bike. And the gym was about like a 10-15 minute bike ride. So it was a 6 a.m. class in the morning, and I ride my bike to that class. And I'm about, a few minutes late, and I come just walking down the stairs, class is beginning, and the coach there just kind of looked at me, and I'm like, hey, I'm here to try CrossFit in the class. And he looked at me, he's like, yeah, we do, like, you gotta have like a reservation,
You just showed up.
I'm kind of like thinking of how like I react when like people show up at our gym with like a reservation. And but I was just like this, young college kid, and I looked like I was, obviously somewhat of an athlete and really excited to be there. And I was like, hey, I just rode my bike here. And he was like, all right, you can come on in. And I remember the workout. I remember the class. We did power snatches in the beginning, and he made me use a trainer bar. And obviously, like, I was, strong kid with a football background and lifting and all these things. But, I had to really, like, just obviously I'm there first class dropping. He knows nothing about me. He's assessing. And it was beneficial because, like, I was just coming back to a foundation of learning something. And I was like super light, and the workout was 3 rounds for time of a 400-meter run. I believe it was 15 power snatches with like a super light loading, and 15 ring push-ups. And like I just like smoked it because it was like a trainer bar and like tens.
Yeah, you're moving.
And the ring push-ups, I felt pretty good with that. And then that led into me doing 3 on-ramp sessions, so like one-on-one sessions prior to like a membership with my sensei. I call him Coach Steve Wakefoos at CrossFit Westchester. Shout out to you. But yeah, it was those three. I remember those 3 workouts, those 3 on-ramp sessions, and that basically led me on this, whole new path of just excitement. I was just so excited to be doing something that really felt just called to me, but also I was doing my own research on the back end of, you know, there's this CrossFit Games, and like I could have
Yeah.
this, whole nother avenue of competing because I didn't get to compete, and there was just so many things that I was starting to put together in my mind of like where this could actually lead me to.
Dude, in my like first couple, like 2014 to like 2018, like I was just so gung ho on everything. Like, and this was like Reeboks, like nanos, like lifters, like belts, like everything we don't do at MFP. Like, dude, when I just started and like just barely learning how to lift, I was already like putting the belt on and putting the lifters on,
Oh
like
my god!
and like the complete opposite of like now I'm like I love the minimalist vibes, like the barefoot shoes, like like no grips, but I had so much gear, like switch my shoes, get my belt, like even if we're just like squatting and like a metcon, like belts going on. It was so much gear. Like I had so much. I was so like gung ho.
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what though. I mean, I think we could talk a little bit about what this even means for somebody listening about CrossFit gear, and how it's a big thing. Because yeah, in the earlier years of CrossFit, especially let's just say from the years of 2012 the 2017, 18, the CrossFit sport was a very popularized component
Mm-hmm.
of the CrossFit methodology and the CrossFit community. And not saying that that translated completely into affiliates, but I think, the way how people were thought of how to push themselves. Um, I think it maybe there was a lot of steps that were skipped, and a lot of ways that we lost uh, a holistic perspective of like
Yeah.
how we actually are designed to move and how we can make progress, and actually how we could integrate components of longevity
Mm-hmm.
into our programs. So going back to like the idea of CrossFit gear, that was really a big thing. Like people wearing like wrist wraps or weightlifting belts,
Mm-hmm.
or wearing shoes that like elevated your heels, so that way you didn't have to worry about poor ankle
Yep.
mobility, or knee sleeves,
Yep.
compression sleeves on your knees, compression sleeves on your elbows, you name it, grips. They're all tools, but these are all tools that really we should be like a last defense.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of ways we can go down this rabbit hole of a conversation of looking at these tools. But before I go, do you want to note on anything in particular that comes to your mind about CrossFit gear?
I mean, I think that in general, CrossFit as kind of like where we are today is definitely less gear focused than it used to be, just because you said, like, I think a lot of the mindset of CrossFit has shifted as like, yes, the games are still like an integral part of the community, but there's more of an emphasis on like holistic fitness and whole being. But you know, I think that a lot of it is like sometimes people, it's appealing to people who just don't really know any better. Like if you're a true beginner, and like it's just easy to see a bunch of stuff, like there's stuff everywhere, and like understanding like without really knowing like why that stuff is being used. Like, okay, I'm using a belt, but like when I first started moving and doing like CrossFit and Olympic lifting, it's like I didn't really think about why I'm using this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is this point? Obviously, to like bless you, create like tension in my midline, right? And same thing with the lifters. Like, okay, what is the purpose of this? Like, oh, it's my ankles. I can't move them. Like you don't beginners aren't really like thinking about that like on a like molecular level almost.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I'm guilty as charged on a lot of this stuff, and I wish I had the mindset that I did now back then, because I would have made so much progress in so many of my weak areas that I actually needed to focus on.
Yeah.
And so a lot of this comes down to, how that culture already is within the CrossFit facility. And so let's just say, for example, that culture is like, using gear and all these things, using a weightlifting belt. The concept of that is to provide more stability within the lumbar spine and the abdominals. But do you even have the awareness of how to brace through your breath and your diaphragm, through your spine and your abdominal muscles, that you can just create without even using a belt? And so where does that belt become a tool? Well, it becomes a tool for like absolute maximal loading.
Mm-hmm.
But for most people's purpose, a development, like, is that actually what they need? There's a time and place to test and maybe explore a belt,
Yeah.
but that's 3%, 2% of that time. So same applies when it comes to like lifters. Like, are we wearing Olympic lifters to mask our ankle mobility that's poor, which is something I did.
Yep.
By far. Like, I was wearing lifters because my ankle mobility is poor. I was wearing wrist wraps because my wrist stability was poor versus, and like that was a quick fix,
Yeah.
Or same thing with like a knee sleeve. Like, my knee already still has issues, but am I wearing a knee sleeve to actually mask that problem versus me actually understanding like what's causing the issue, so that way I can take preventative measures, so that way I can actually learn how to manage the discomfort without having a resource to just do it for me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of a lot of it is like because CrossFit has like, you know, become more of a, I would just say more curious, like it's less performance focused. Like when you're so performance focused, like you're not as curious, right? And like that being so focused on just like strict numbers on the whiteboard, strict numbers in that like on your lifts, like you kind of lose that curiosity to like um think about everything on a little bit of a deeper level. So I think that part of the reason, like not just like obviously what we do at MFP, but other people are like there's so much more traction in the minimalist shoes, like the barefoot shoes, like the zero drop. Like people are just becoming within the CrossFit community and the fitness community in general, like there's this growing sense of curiosity while still, understanding that performance and, you know, testing is an important part of this, but what's most important is just this constant sense of curiosity to grow and improve.
Yeah. No, I can totally understand and go through that process myself. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's things I advocate for. Like, I would say, like, hand grips are very beneficial, especially if you're doing like high volume of pull-ups. Like, obviously ripping, that sets you back, a week if you rip, in terms of using your hands and things like that. And so really, as a gym owner, and especially for maybe new members or people that are listening to this part of our community, or probably don't even understand what the heck we're talking about, because you don't see those types of habits formed in our community. And we just talked the past few weeks about habits and non-negotiables. Like, to some extent, these are habits and non-negotiables that we set within our community. It's the idea of like, yeah, we might have a few belts hanging up, but like there's a rites to passage. I think
Yeah.
that's a really important thing for people to understand. There's
Yeah.
I used to say this all the time about earning your intensity. Why are
Yeah.
what's your relationship to using a performance enhancement, product, in terms of like where you're already at? Like, could you actually do those things from a different viewpoint that actually serve you from a longevity perspective,
Yeah.
right? So again, it's really to have an open mind. You might see these if like you travel right now in the summer. And if you go to drop into a CrossFit box, and I'm not saying, to judge that gym or say that's a bad thing, but, you're probably going to see a lot of people, use these things. And I would argue that like many of them probably don't need it. Like, are you using a belt because, like, should you even be using a belt? You don't even know how to hinge and use and flatten and arch your spine and your
Yeah.
back. Like, we probably should be, you know, taking things down a notch. But there's a thing, that what's that relationship to performance, and also like where is your own personal ego at, and what are your goals?
Yeah.
And that could be relative to everybody. And so, just some things to explore. I thought that was a really interesting thing for us to talk about today.
Yeah. Do you got any more fun early CrossFit stories? Because I got one.
Let's hear yours first, and I'll piggyback
So
off of you.
I'll share one of my fondest early CrossFit memories. So I was with this guy who opened a business, an affiliate. I'm not going to name the affiliate because it wasn't a great fit for me. All right, so it wasn't a great fit. But I knew some like local buddies back home in Hazleton were doing CrossFit at like Garage Vibes, and I was so curious. I would see people posting on Instagram like at this some big garage, and I was like, I reached out to my one buddy. I'm like, where are you working out, man? Like, this looks sweet. And he's like, so this is like my original sensei. So there's this guy, he lived near me, named Matt Williams. Awesome dude. Matt, if you're listening, shout out to you. He built onto his house, I guess it was like a compromise with his wife. So he, because I guess maybe he wanted to open an affiliate. He built onto his house an extension, probably half the size of MFP, a CrossFit, like a true little CrossFit gym. And like my first like years at home working out were just like, it was almost like a club, but it was like just like it was just like close friends, like, and he had classes like, like after work it would basically be like 5, 6, 7, and he would just come home and like, I mean, he was a coach too. Like he used to coach up at NEPA CrossFit up in like Wilkes-Barre, and like he was he was a certified, like he was a coach, and he would just like lead classes. Like we would do a bunch of kettlebell stuff, like, and like just classic old school. Like we did the Chief a bunch. Like we would do a bunch of just like, and we would have like a big chalkboard, like your benchmark times. Like it was just like so old school.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. Like I have a lot of shout out to Matt Williams and the garage. It was like OG vibes.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, and like there's a lot of parts of the OG CrossFit, timeline that really was exciting. Like I don't want to come off in a way where I feel like I'm talking, negatively about that, because actually, not just stories, but like some of the most, amazing moments in my growth throughout CrossFit were these early days of me finding purpose through the competitive lifestyle of CrossFit. And so continuing with my story, like I really found I immersed myself into becoming a competitor. And that became my drive, that became my desire. And was it necessarily the healthiest thing for me mentally? Maybe not. There were some toxic habits and mindsets that like I wish I had more guidance on, and to learn how to navigate that space and my relationship to being a competitive athlete in terms of the training aspect as well. But I had so many amazing moments of getting to that point. For example, like going back to those on-ramp sessions with Steve, like my first one, he was, I was literally a kid in a candy store. Like he showed me all these gymnastic things that getting into a handstand, and like I could do them all super well. And I just like, it was just having the coaching and guidance. And, he's talking about rope climbs, and he's like, all right, we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to do a rope climb with like using your foot. Before he even got to that, I was just like, oh, like this. And I just like jumped up the rope and did a legless rope climb up to like 18 feet. And then I came back down. I was like that. He's like, that's impressive, but like there's actually a technique with using your, like I was just like all over the place. The third workout, he made me do Isabel, because he noticed that I had this like competitive drive to me. And Isabel, for you guys who don't know, it's 30 snatches for time. We do Grace every year, 30 clean and jerks for time. Prescribed weight's 135.95. And at that time, 135.95 was a challenging weight
Yeah.
for a lot of people in the competitive world, at least. But for me, like, that was pretty heavy. And it took me like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Typically a competitive time for that is like a minute and a half, for most. But like, and I was doing these ugly snatches. They got really hard, but I just like looking at it like at it back in the day, and I'm like, Steve, why would you let me do that? And he probably was just like, I guess it's also part of my journey, like figuring it out for myself and understanding that growth.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that whole timeline of me from that point to Jenny being like, hey, we see value in you. We want you to be a part of our regionals team. And regionals, for those who don't know, is competitive. It was a competition prior to the CrossFit Games of how you qualify, and they have teams. So I did team for a few years, and I always wanted to do individual, and that progressed to me finally getting that opportunity to do individual in years 2017 and 2018. And yeah, there were parts of like the toxic component of like, doing the open and being on the leaderboard and, not, overtraining and doing so many things that really were not serving my long-term growth, but actually were maybe serving my long-term growth. Because these are all things I can now look back on and understand and be a guide for others. So yeah, those were really all my happiest moments, and I'm super grateful to have that as a part of my path, because it wasn't even just the performance too. It was also the coaching. I mean, I was coaching there almost immediately because of my personality and what I wanted to learn. And again, coming back to the very beginning of this like whole universal acts, like how everything just like started to align for me once I started to put myself out there to receive that.
Yeah. Yeah, and like for the especially new MFP members who are not just new to MFP but new to CrossFit in general, like I would encourage you to like do a little bit of your homework and just like explore just the history of CrossFit because it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like looking back at just like the overall like going back, like we've talked about Glassman on this podcast before, just like, you know, CrossFit's origins and its growth. Like it's really interesting and like or like even the games, like I know, the CrossFit games is such a different experience than, what we actually experience in our everyday life, just training for life. But it's just like I think it's a good thing to enjoy and experience. And like for me, I love like CrossFit Games is coming up in August, and like I just love watching it because I love the community and I loved like now it's just like it's so impressive like what these people can do, but it's just like just a pretty awesome celebration of fitness. And since you are an MFP member and you are a part of a CrossFit affiliate, just like I think it's I encourage you just to be curious and look at the history of CrossFit because it's just really cool to see like how it started, how it's grown, and like the impact it's had. Because I really don't think like anything has affected like the overall way we approach fitness like CrossFit.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that's a statement too. I've mentioned many times. I know last year I did a what is CrossFit seminar for a CrossFit community. So if you guys are curious about, a way of hearing all the origins and everything, you can always look back to that resource that we have for you guys on YouTube or MFPDU. And I do mention, CrossFit Games athletes because I think the first reaction for a lot of people is, looking at that as like intimidating, but also like they are really setting the story of like what CrossFit can do for somebody. Because yeah, maybe a handful of these people started off with an athletic background or at least some sort of precursor, like doing gymnastics or rowing, swimming, whatever prior to that, they give them an advantage in some domains. But because CrossFit is such a holistic and balanced view of fitness, like their journeys are not that far from what our journeys are. I mean, they literally have started from, learning the fundamentals and the basics to becoming these super fit athletes that are doing things that are just continuing to evolve, because the CrossFit Games and what they do continues to set a standard of like where fitness can lead to every single year. Like the CrossFit Games that are coming up in 2024 compared to what you see from the CrossFit Games in 2007 is a completely, I mean, most people now in a CrossFit gym could probably do the CrossFit Games workouts from like 2007, 2008.
I would be a games athlete in 2007. And I'm not even exaggerating that.
Yeah.
Like, if you could do a bar muscle
Yeah.
up, if you could snatch 135 pounds,
Yeah.
you could be a CrossFit Games athlete in 2007. And
Yeah.
but it's so cool though. Like those, like I said, like it's like, be a student of it. Like look at the history of it, because it's really like, you're there every day. Like it's a fun way just to learn about like the history of what you're doing, because it's had such an awesome impact.
Yeah, we'll actually touch on the games coming up for you guys as they approach within the next few weeks. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a component of the community as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of, pushback on affiliate owners because those years, like I mentioned, were really marketed through the media and CrossFit for the games and for, the promotion of what they do for the community as a whole, but also it didn't necessarily represent what happens on an affiliate on a day-to-day basis, which is very true. Our primetime individual that we're looking with is just your person that needs to get up and off the couch to become more healthy and then be more well. With that being said, the sky's the limit for how we can reach our physical potential, and the games does a beautiful job of representing that. And I think there's a lot of ways that we can continue to use that as a tool within our affiliates to provide members motivation. And one of those very specific examples is the CrossFit Open,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that, it's going to resonate with a lot of you here in the CrossFit community. It's something that we do religiously every year as an event, as a community event. And some people look at it as a competition, in which, to some extent, we want to reframe our mindset of like what competition means, right? Competition doesn't have to be like me versus you. I'm going to be better than you. We can use it as a tool to say, how can we use this way of bringing people together to better myself, but to also better others, and to also just have fun. And also know that like these CrossFit Games athletes, like the Open is their first line of defense to qualifying. They're doing those same workouts as us. Now, are we doing them at the same level? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like there's just so much to have fun with. Keep having fun with your fitness. Like when I look back at my CrossFit journey, like it's been a ton of fun, and like just keep, don't be like it becomes like, never take it too like seriously. Like this is a gift to be able to do this every day, and like I have such fond memories, and because it is something I genuinely enjoy, and it's like it's a gift to be able to do this every day. And I just, having this community is a gift, and having this space is a gift. So just having that mindset, it'll just kind of really enhance your overall just mindset as you show up every day.
Preach. I don't even have to say anything after that. I think that that goes into our gratitude cool down for these upcoming Fridays. So yeah, guys, we just wanted to kind of, just go off on, different tangents of talking about CrossFit stories today, and, kind of see where that led us. And I think we'll kind of wrap it up from there. I think that's a good way to end our podcast for today. So yeah, just giving you guys some things to look forward to in terms of the gym, in terms of events, is we have the Plunge with Park. So like Coach Joe is mentioning, his accountability for his plunging habit that he's working on. Park has open hours, and you'll see these on Wodify that you can sign up for, We will have hours on Friday, and we will have hours on Saturday, and these will be after the classes, and you'll see specifically what those times are. But yeah, you'll reserve. These are paid sessions to park for services. It's not just plunging. You're going to do breath work, some prep, some connection work as well with park and with whoever you're plunging with to get organized. So it's a $20 fee. Highly recommend to use it as an accountability tool. Coach, you did this, this past Saturday, and it was really cool to see some members take advantage of that. So yeah, it's something that we want to just offer you guys to continue to work on. Like I said in the beginning, this Sunday I'm going to have my breath workout class, which is the Infinity class. They'll be from 9 to 10:30. Before that, which is picking up a little bit, which is Run Club.
Right.
Run Club's picking up. You want to say anything about Run Club?
Run Club, we've been focusing primarily on different forms of intervals. I just found it to be the most effective way to keep us together as a group, especially as we all run at different paces. Yeah. And last week we did longer intervals, a little over a mile, little bus route, St. Denis Lane route. So you're never going to be lost. We're always going to be doing intervals. Just do them at your own pace, just like an AMRAP or a Metcon. We're all doing the same workout. You just might be at a different spot. So don't be intimidated. All paces welcome. Just come and we'll be running, and you won't get lost.
Yeah, I like the 50-minute AMRAP you did yesterday, though. That was pretty cool.
It was nice. And you can do as many as you want.
Nice. Yeah, we'll have those Sunday specials for you, and then we have an upcoming workshop at the end of the month with Park and Mind Over Matter Wellness, just to keep you guys more engaged with how we're also trying to offer services that are just not just the physical fitness, right? We're really trying to expand the whole idea of what it means to be well on all levels, right? The emotional, the mental, and exploring that spiritual component of ourselves, which is just super vital, but it's sometimes hard to, grasp for some. So we're trying to make that a little bit more palatable for you as, we're still continuing these journeys ourselves and just bringing that to the MFP community. So yeah, stay tuned. All right. Keep showing up. Keep listening. Communication rocks the nation, like I said. All right. And we're here to support you guys all the time. You know the deal. If you get an email from Coach Joe saying, hey, we love you, give us your feedback, make sure you respond back to him because Joe's doing a great job for you all. All right. All right, team. That's all we got. All right. Coach Marco, Coach Joe.
Yep.
All right.
See you next time.
Peace.